When was the last time you thought about a cigarette? If you smoke, you're probably thinking about one right now. If you don't smoke, cigarettes may be the last thing on your mind. But whether or not you smoke, we'd like you to think about the industry that makes and sells cigarettes. It's an industry that spends more than $2.5 billion a year advertising their product. When you break down that $2.5 billion, it means they spend $40 for each smoker in the United States, or $10 for every American citizen. $2.5 billion. And the cigarette industry isn't allowed to spend any of that money on radio or television advertising. So where do they spend it? They spend it on all sorts of sporting events, on concerts, on art exhibitions, and of course, on all those billboards and posters and magazine ads that you see every time you turn your head. Why does this industry spend so much money on advertising? Do you know any smokers who actually need advertising to remind them to pick up another pack? Cigarette company executives say they only advertise to get people who already smoke to switch to their brand. Brand preference, they call it. But how many smokers that you know switch brands back and forth? Then why do cigarette companies spend so much money on advertising? Experts say they spend all that money because they have to replace 2 million customers each year. After all, a lot of people are quitting these days, and a lot of others have to quit. Doctor's orders. And each year, 365,000 cigarette industry customers are killed by cigarettes. So who is all that advertising really designed to reach? Some people suspect it's aimed at nice, young, healthy, new customers, like you. So we'd like you to think about the cigarette industry while we tell you the story of a man who is an expert in advertising and thinks he has a good idea of what the cigarette companies are up to. His name is Tony Schwartz.
All of them trek to his door. He's got a little cubbyhole in New York that he never leaves. He's had Carter there. He's had Teddy Kennedy there. Look at this. Talk about power. You shape public opinion. You decide who's going to run.
Although you may not recognize Tony Schwartz's name, you might recognize some of the work he's done to promote products.
I don't nag. Your mother nags.
And presidents.
I want to be your president. I hope that you'll give me that chance on November 2nd.
I don't see myself as powerful, and I don't see myself as a power broker in any way. I just want to be able to take on problems.
My name is Patrick Reynolds. My grandfather, R.J. Reynolds, founded the tobacco company which now manufactures Camels, Winstons, and Salems. We've all heard the tobacco industry say that there are no ill effects caused by smoking. Well, we have plenty of cigarette-caused disease and death right in the R.J. Reynolds family itself. My grandfather, R.J. Reynolds, chewed tobacco and died of cancer. My father, R.J. Reynolds, Jr., smoked heavily and died of emphysema. My mother smoked and had emphysema and heart disease. And 2 of my aunts, also heavy smokers, died of emphysema and cancer. 3 of my older brothers who smoke have emphysema. I smoked for 10 years, and I have small airways lung disease. Now tell me, do you think the cigarette companies are truthful when they tell you that smoking isn't harmful? What do you think?
I've never hesitated getting into a media fight or standing up for something.
You know, if people smoked like this, we wouldn't have to worry about children being around people who smoke. We wouldn't have to worry at all. But people smoke like this. And according to the American Academy of Pediatrics, children of smokers are more prone to bronchitis, pneumonia, and other respiratory problems. Outdoors or indoors, fresh, clean, smoke-free air is good for children.
I think that it's important to know that our government doesn't, and our news doesn't consider the biggest story of the century, how one company can every year kill 365,000 Americans. It outnumbers any other disease. And these people are allowed to get away with this because of their business interest. I feel that we have to stop their ability to kill this many Americans. I feel I have to take any way I can to make people aware of how these people are getting them. Now, I don't think these people want to kill you or anyone else like you, but they don't care if they do. They just don't care. The executive of one of the companies was on television one day, and he said that there is no indication, there is no scientific proof that cigarette smoke has affected anyone, has any ill effects. Well, I thought that was interesting, and I thought since it was on the morning national news, I'd do a commercial about it.
You know, at St. John's Episcopal Hospital, two of our busiest departments are the surgical department and the psychiatric department. In our surgical department, we see the effects of cigarettes on people every day. We see people with heart attacks. We see people with lung cancer. We see people with throat cancer. And we see people with emphysema, all caused by smoking cigarettes. But you know, after all of the medical evidence we've seen, and after all of the Surgeon General's reports, and after all of the government's warnings, and after all of the warnings printed on their own cigarette packages and in their own cigarette ads, cigarette company executives still aren't convinced that cigarettes have caused any cancer or endangered anyone's health. Therefore, as a community service, we'd like to offer free help for these cigarette company executives in our psychiatric department, to help get them back in touch with reality. Brought to you as a public service by St. John's Episcopal Hospital, Far Rockaway, Smithtown.
See, they say there's no scientific proof that cigarettes kill anybody, that they cause your cancer. There's no proof of it. But don't let them kid you. They are out to just accomplish one thing. They don't have the interest of the smoker in mind. They claim to defend the smoker. They are not interested in the smoker. They are interested in their money, their billions. You are being subjected to this barrage of advertising. Cigarette companies are the largest advertisers in many publications, and it's the difference between publications surviving or not surviving. So people say, we need to have the business and it's legal. Here's a cover of Time magazine where they put the earthquake in Mexico City that killed 5,000 people. They put it on the cover. And it's a big, big story. Now, the back cover had a much more important story. Look at the back cover here. It's a cigarette ad. That story kills 350 to 365,000 people a year. It's more than 70 earthquakes. Or take the more ads, where they're trying to tell you get more from more cigarettes, and they may mean more something. Even on the bottom of the ad, they tell you what you get more of. Listen.
Have you seen that new ad for more cigarettes with a giant more package and a beautiful woman standing next to it smoking and the print "Dare to be more" on the page? Well, what do you think they're daring you to be more of? Are they daring you to be more likely to get lung cancer, to have trouble during pregnancy, to have emphysema, to have yellow teeth and bad breath, to get throat cancer, to have heart disease? Dare to be more what?
Here's a story about this lovely girl who sold 32,000 boxes of Girl Scout cookies. And right smack in the middle of the story is this ad.
We asked young people what recess means.
Recess is like a time for you to go outside and just have fun and let all your energies go.
For me, it was the first time that I really got to talk to my friends.
Recess is a break between classes.
Well, you know, there's a cigarette ad that says, "The perfect recess, Parliament." Do you think they're trying to sell to young people?
Definitely, yeah. It's directed when they say recess. I mean, the first image that comes to mind is little kids playing around.
Because recess is for children. I mean, when you think of recess, you think of children, so they know what they're doing.
They want to show how good they are, and they tell young people not to smoke.
Have you seen those ads put out by the R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company? You know the ones, the ads that say, they don't want young people to smoke. They think smoking is strictly for adults. Would you like to hear how a high school student reacted?
It makes you want to smoke. They say smoking